Welcome to another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy, Pub Sports Radio. Thursday, November 18th, Ian Cameron with you for our weekly look at pro football on both sides of the border, CFL and NFL. We're ready to get going. Let's get right into it. We'll start with the CFL card as always. This is the final week of the regular season in the CFL. The Grey Cup playoffs will begin next week. So in a lot of these games, there's not a whole lot at stake except for a couple. This is one of them where there is something on the line for one of the teams. It's the Montreal Alouettes hosting the Ottawa Red Blacks. We've got Montreal 13.5, 14-point home favorites, 45 the total in this game. Montreal to keep alive any chances of being second place in the East Division. They have to win this game against Ottawa. Obviously, they're expected to win as 2-touchdown favorites and should be able to get past this horrendous Ottawa team that's just had a dismal year at 2-11 overall. But the Ottawa Red Blacks were a lot more competitive in their last game, and they are coming off a bye week as well. And in that game against the Argos, who, of course, won the East Division with their win against Hamilton last week, Ottawa took them down to the wire, 23-20 loss. It was the debut in the CFL for Devlin Duck Hodges, who, of course, we remember him from the Pittsburgh Steelers when he was there at quarterback for a little bit. But he struggled in that game, which isn't totally unexpected. There usually is a little bit of a learning curve for quarterbacks that make their start in the CFL when they're not used to it. And he definitely had a little bit of a struggle in that game, only completed 8 passes and 22 attempts for 90 yards. So he's definitely had a tough time in the passing game, but he has a bye week here. It's a little bit of an opportunity to get a little bit more comfortable with the offense. We'll see if that leads to better results. And the one thing about Ottawa is you look at the recent head-to-head meetings against Montreal. Montreal won the last game in Ottawa 27-16, but fairly competitive game. And before that, Montreal barely beat Ottawa 20-16 at home on October 11th, which was Canadian Thanksgiving. So, Ottawa's been reasonably competitive. It is their last home game, and they did take Toronto down to the wire. As much as I've been, wanting to fade Ottawa, this is now a full 2-touchdown underdog price for them. And I don't know if they've been 2-touchdown underdogs other than once, and that was against Hamilton. So it's a lot of points. Sure, Montreal's the better team. And yes, it does look like Trevor Harris is really starting to settle in with this team offensively here for Montreal. But that doesn't mean I'm really ready to lay 2 touchdowns here with Montreal. It's not a game I'll probably be getting involved in, but I think it's just a touch inflated. I actually lean to the underdog here, the Red Blacks. You just got to hope Hodges shows some development and improvement from that first start against Toronto, because it was pretty rough for him in that first CFL outing. Edmonton and BC, we've got the BC Lions, 4.5-point home favorites, 48 the total. The Edmonton Elks finally win a football game, snapping an ugly losing streak, getting their third win of the season against Toronto on Tuesday night, 13-7. A very weird, awkward scheduled Tuesday night game because of the pandemic. Remember the Edmonton-Toronto game earlier this season was canceled or postponed due to COVID-19 issues surrounding the Edmonton Elks. So Edmonton gets a victory there, and I'm sure they kind of celebrated like they won a championship. It was kind of funny to see it. It's like, guys, you're 3-10. I mean, my gosh, I know you're happy you finally won a game, but you won it against Toronto's B team, their backup squad, because that's pretty much who was in the game that night for Toronto. They rested a lot of starters on both sides of the football in that game after clinching the first place spot in the East Division last week. But give Edmonton credit. They won a game. I'm not going to completely take it away from them, but they did play Toronto with a bunch of backups in that game. They have covered 3 in a row now, this Edmonton team. So we'll give them some credit for that. This is a pretty difficult situation, though, because of the fact they had to get that Toronto-Edmonton makeup game in on Tuesday. The Edmonton Elks are now in a very rare situation of having to play 3 football games in less than a week. They were at Saskatchewan on Saturday night last weekend. They were in Toronto on Tuesday. And now they got to fly out west to BC for this game on Friday night. So from a scheduling standpoint or a situational perspective, this is about as bad as it gets for Edmonton. And I don't know how they're going to show up here for this one. Now, the problem is BC is just absolutely floundering coming into this game. It is their home finale, though. I know they're 0-7 straight up, 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games. It's been a dreadful finish to the season for the BC Lions. And it looks like Michael Riley is not going to play at quarterback. BC looks like they're going to go with Nathan Rourke, the Canadian quarterback, played at Ohio, of course, with the Bobcats in college football. Looks like he's going to start for BC in this game. And look, he's gotten just a little bit of time this year, but he's a guy that's at least come in and capable at times. You look at what he's done this year for the BC Lions, 29 of 48, 395 passing yards, 77 rushing yards on the ground. He's a dual threat. And this could be a situation where he takes this opportunity and says, you know what? I got to show the Lions what I'm capable of, because I think I can be the future at quarterback for them. It's certainly not going to be Riley, not at this stage of his career, as the gets at the tail end of his long CFL career. This really is an opportunity here for Nathan Rourke to show what he's made of here for BC. So I'd expect him to be motivated. I know BC's at a rough 7-game losing streak, but it is their final game. You would think they want to go out with a win, and they just get Edmonton in just a brutal situation. I mean, you got to think, playing in Saskatchewan, playing in Toronto, playing now in BC, traveling twice this week, and now think about this, their third football game in less than a week. That's unheard of. I want no part of Edmonton here. I'm trying to make a case for BC. I'm lean to BC minus 4.5, and I would be surprised if I don't bet something on BC in this spot, laying 4.5 in this one. We got the 2 Saturday CFL games, Saskatchewan and Hamilton. Hamilton opened 1-point home favorites in this game. It's gone all the way up to 6.5 in this one, 42. This is another situation where Saskatchewan's resting a lot of their key players in this game, including quarterback Cody Fajardo. He won't play. And there's a lot of players not going to be in the lineup. Fajardo, William Powell, the running back, Duke Williams at receiver, starting center on the O-line, Dan Clark. It's a bunch of guys that are not going to play here in this game. So it's going to be Isaac Harker that's going to make the start at quarterback here for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Paxton Lynch and Mason Fine are the guys behind him, but I think it's going to be Harker who's going to end up getting the start here for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in this game. He started their final game 2 years ago when they'd already clinched a playoff spot, which is what's happened here. Saskatchewan's already clinched their position. They're going to host Calgary in the West Division semifinal next week. That's why they're resting everybody. This is a totally meaningless game here for Saskatchewan. But Harker started last year's finale, and he led the team to a 23-13 win over Edmonton 2 years ago, I should say. So he's a guy that's shown he's capable, but obviously still you've got to give the advantage to Hamilton. The line's getting up there, but if you can get it below 7, I'd still lean to the Ticats. This is a enormous game for them because they control their own destiny, regardless of what Montreal does on Friday night. If they win, all Hamilton has to do is win this game. They clinch second in the East, and they would host Montreal in Hamilton in the East Division semifinal next weekend. So all Hamilton has to do is win this game. What's interesting, though, is in just let's say for some reason Ottawa stuns Montreal and beats them Friday night. That's why I would hold off on betting Hamilton, believe it or not, right now. Because if Montreal beats, or if somehow Montreal loses to Ottawa, and look, Ottawa's bad, but they only lost to Toronto by 3 in their last game, so they did compete pretty well in that one. But if somehow Ottawa beats Montreal on Friday night, that means this game would now be meaningless for Hamilton because they will have already clinched second if Montreal loses that game. So be careful of that. And Hamilton might rest starters, if that ends up being the case. So this is a situation where if Montreal beats Ottawa Friday night, I'm going to lay the 6.5 with Hamilton. If for some reason Ottawa beats Montreal on Friday night, I would stay off the game because then you're going to have two teams that you wonder where the motivation is going to come from in this one. I still might lean to Hamilton, though, even if it's nothing on the line for them, because if they rest Masoli, it means you're going to see Dane Evans, and Dane Evans is, probably the best number 2 quarterback in the CFL this season. So we'll see how it transpires, but you'd expect Montreal to beat Ottawa, and if that's the case, Hamilton's got to win this one to clinch second in the East Division. All right, Winnipeg-Calgary. We got Winnipeg 4-point road favorites, 41 the total. Winnipeg's already clinched first in the West. Calgary now knows they're going to have to go to Saskatchewan. There's nothing tangible on the line for either of these teams. So, under the total makes some sense. I'm sure you're going to see Sean McGuire again at quarterback for Winnipeg. And if you saw him play against Montreal last week, and I was on Montreal with the points they won outright, it was rough for Sean McGuire. No question about that. So the under might get there. I wouldn't expect Bo Levi Mitchell to play in this game for the Calgary Stampeders. But keep in mind that their backup, Jake Meyer this year, he ended up playing pretty well at times for Calgary when Bo Levi Mitchell was out. So if he plays in this game, that's a pretty good backup option. And if it's McGuire versus Jake Meyer in this game, then definitely it's an edge for Calgary at the quarterback spot because McGuire hasn't shown you anything for the Bombers. Whereas you got Jake Mayer earlier in the season, really playing well, led his team to a win against Montreal. Remember, he played Winnipeg early in the year, and they almost beat Winnipeg in Winnipeg with Jake Mayer as the quarterback for this Calgary team. So when it's all said and done here, I would probably lean Calgary here. And look, if you're betting against Winnipeg, since they clinched the East or since they clinched the West Division a few weeks ago, you're 2-0 against the spread. So they haven't covered either game since they clinched the West Division, Winnipeg, and now they're favored on the road here. So I'd still lean Calgary if that ends up being your quarterback matchup in that game. All right, that's your CFL look. Let's turn our attention to the NFL. Thursday night football, New England and Atlanta. We've got New England 6.5-point road favorites, 47 the total in this game. It feels I don't want to back Atlanta. I'll preface that right away. But this feels like a giant public love fest for the Patriots, and those haven't been doing well lately, where it's just the public loves one side. And look, New England's coming off a perfect performance against Cleveland, 45-7. They couldn't have played better in that game. Now they're going on the road on a short week, playing an Atlanta team that was dreadful last week against Dallas. Don't get me wrong, but it's a situation where it's like you're definitely selling high on New England, and you're definitely buying low on Atlanta. And I can't do it with Atlanta because I don't trust that offense against a New England defense that's just gotten better and better and better each week. But man, this is not exactly a bargain by any stretch of the imagination here, laying 6.5, nearly 7 with New England on the road. I'm staying out of this game completely. I don't have a strong feel for it. I could probably only take the Patriots, but it's just we've been here before where, everybody loves one team. They look so good the last week, and would it surprise me if this game's down to the wire and New England needs like a late field goal to win? No, because that's just the nature of the NFL. Overreactions happen a lot. I do think New England is a player in the AFC now. They have shown that they're in the mix in this conference with the way they're playing, with the way Mac Jones is throwing the ball. Last week, no James White, no Damian Harris at running back. No problem. Ramondre Stevenson comes in, runs for 100 yards. Again, showing you that running back injuries often are overrated. The defense continues to play well. They've now got Mac Jones finding Myers and Kendrick Bourne. And it's been Hunter Henry looks revitalized. He's staying healthy and being productive. Lots to like for New England, but the one thing I don't like is this point spread and where it is. It's not value on New England at this number. No way, no how. So it's a pass for me. Again, I can't stomach taking Atlanta, but it's just not exactly a value number here, laying almost a touchdown on the road with New England. All right, let's go to Sunday, NFL. We've got Detroit and Cleveland. Cleveland 11-point home favorites, 43 the total in this one. So I cashed with Detroit last week against Pittsburgh. I thought it was a great spot, great bet. Off a bye week, desperate Lions team looking to finally win that first game. No team wants to go 0-17. They played their guts out like I expected, and the game ends in a tie. It goes to overtime, and now after a grueling, physical battle, they emptied the gas tank, everything in their power to try to win that game, and it ends up in a tie. Now they're on the road for a second straight week against a pissed-off Cleveland team that got truly humbled and embarrassed last week by New England. If Cleveland brings anything resembling their A game, even their A- or B+ game, it could be enough to eviscerate Detroit in this game because the offense did nothing last week. Jared Goff, it's like they were petrified for him to throw the football. Jared Goff's banged up. He may not play in this game, which means it could be Tim Boyle or David Blau at quarterback for Detroit. All three running backs, including DeAndre Swift, are questionable due to injury. The wide receiving core is one of the worst. It probably is the worst in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown is your best receiver. You've got problems. Simple as that. So this offense, I don't know if they can move the ball against Cleveland defense has shown some vulnerability at times, but I don't know if this is going to be one of those weeks. It just feels like this is going to be an uphill battle here for Detroit. And the one thing we've seen from the Lions repeatedly as of late, they have a huge step up performance. They fall flat the next week. They had one against Baltimore. They fell flat the next week against Chicago. They nearly beat Minnesota, and they fell completely flat the next week against Cincinnati. They gave the Rams everything they could handle in Matthew Stafford and the Rams in that Goff versus Stafford showdown, and then they fell completely flat the next week against Philadelphia. If the pattern holds true, this is supposed to be the Lions' week to fall flat again after the tie with Pittsburgh last week. So, yeah, I'll take my Lions money last week. I am not putting it back in play on the Lions here in this game. Not sure I'm ready to lay 11 with Cleveland. There's still some injuries that they're dealing with, but you worry that this is a Cleveland team, desperation, sense of urgency, atoning for last week. I would still only lean to Cleveland, although keep an eye again on all the injury situations for them going into this game. San Francisco, Jacksonville. San Fran, 6.5 point road favorites, 45 the total. San Francisco, give them credit. Terrific performance Monday Night Football against the Rams, following a game where, see, that's why the NFL is, you scratch your head sometimes. How do you lose 31-17 at home to Colt McCoy and the Arizona Cardinals in that game with no Murray? They look so bad on the defensive side of the football, and then they look so good on that same defense Monday night. It just absolutely shutting down Matthew Stafford and the Rams in a 31-10 win. And now all of a sudden the Niners are 4-5, and they're still very much alive in the playoff hunt. So the way I was approaching this game was if San Francisco had lost to the Rams, that would have been the nail in their coffin for any playoff hopes. I probably would have been on Jacksonville here in this game. But now that San Francisco won that game, and now the playoff hopes are still very much there for the 49ers, I don't know if I'm as strong on the San Francisco side. I'd lean to the under in this game, 45.5. And Jacksonville, look, I mean, they beat Buffalo. They covered against Indy. They kept battling. They hung around most of that game. They've now covered 3 of their last 4 games, Jacksonville. Their defense has really improved the last few weeks as well. Let's give them credit on that side of the ball. It's still a work in progress for the rookie Trevor Lawrence and the offense, but there's no doubt this team has stepped it up a little bit on the defensive side of the football, and that's another reason why I would lean to this game going under the total. 6.5. I wouldn't feel comfortable betting against the 49ers here, because that really was a win that galvanized their playoff hopes on Monday night. But still, I don't know if I want to lay 6.5 either. So this will be a game I'll probably stay off. Indianapolis and Buffalo. The Bills, 7-point home favorites, 50 the total. This is a playoff revenge game for the Colts. We remember they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. And the Bills got the victory, although the Colts made them work for it. I got to lean to Indy and the points a little bit here in this game. The one concern is Buffalo, when they've won, and obviously they're favored by a touchdown. They're expected to win. Every Buffalo win this year has been by more than 2 touchdowns. So it kind of feels like, well, if I'm taking Indy and Buffalo wins, I'm probably in trouble because they've just had this knack for beating teams. When they win games, they win by margin, and they pull away late in games, and they've had a propensity to do that as of late, this Bills team. But you're still talking about a Colts team that's, playing some good football. Carson Wentz, yeah, he makes some mistakes, but he's also made some good plays as of late. They're not asking him to do too much. They're relying on Jonathan Taylor, who's averaging 6.9 yards per carry. The Bills' run defense is pretty good. But we've seen Jonathan Taylor have success running the football even against some good run defenses lately. And I think they'll be able to have enough success here to be able to, keep Carson Wentz in manageable down and distance situations, which is always key when you're playing a pretty good team on the road. And again, let's be honest. The only one of those wins that Buffalo had against a reasonably good team was Kansas City. And yes, they won that game by 18, but Kansas City was struggling at the time. The other wins were the Jets, the Dolphins, the Texans, Washington, Miami twice. So it's not like many of those wins for Buffalo, where each of them have come by a big margin, have been against really good football teams. So I would lean to the Indianapolis side here. Check the weather in Buffalo on Sunday. Right now, there's a chance of showers, maybe a little wind. If the rain's not going to be heavy and the wind's not going to be anything more than moderate, I'd look for points in this game because I think the Colts will move the ball. I think the Bills offense got back on track last week. So I would lean to this over the total in this Colts-Bills game. Total right now sitting at 50. Miami, New York Jets. The Dolphins 3-point road favorites, 44.5 the total. Joe Flacco making the start here for the New York Jets. Very unexpected. Zach Wilson not quite ready to go. And obviously, they saw all they needed to out of Mike White last week. So quickly, the Mike White train has been derailed. And now all of a sudden, we're going to see Joe Flacco at quarterback here for the New York Jets in this game on Sunday against the Dolphins. For me, it's still Miami or pass. I mean, let's give Miami credit. The last couple of, well, now the Houston game, not so much because Houston's bad, but last week against Baltimore, 22-10 win. Just an impressive defensive effort against that Ravens team. And now all of a sudden, Miami's got a little life at 3-7. It's still, they've got to go, if they even want to entertain the playoffs, they almost have to win out. But that's 2 in a row. This is a winnable game for them. The Jets defense, I'm really sick and tired of hearing them talk about how they got to play better on that side of the ball. We just haven't seen it. 6 straight overs for the New York Jets. They've given up a grand total of 24 points or more in 6 straight games, 90 points in the last 2 games, 45 each to Buffalo and the Colts. It's just a defense that's absolutely abysmal right now. So there's a bunch of different ways I would look in this game. I'd look to Miami -3. Miami team totals 23.5, 24. I like that quite a bit too. I mean, they've given up at least 24 in every game, the New York Jets, the last 6 games. And the Miami team totals 23.5, 24. And with Tua Tagovailoa back, at least they've got a little bit of an ability in the passing game to move the ball, something they didn't have consistently, obviously, with Jacoby Brissett. So you would think the Dolphins have a pretty good chance to get to that 24. I would also lean to the full game over as well, 45.5. But I think I like the Dolphins side and the Dolphins team total more than the full game because you just don't know what you're going to get from Joe Flacco, especially with the Dolphins defense playing maybe their best game last week against a very good Baltimore team. So that's a good sign for a Dolphins defense that does have some talent on it. So definitely interested in Miami -3 and the Miami team total over in this game on Sunday against the New York Jets. Washington, Carolina. We've got Carolina 3.5 point home favorites, 43 the total. I'm on Carolina here for sure. I mean, I like that their offense has Cam Newton, and PJ Walker. I don't know where Matt Rule is going to go this week with the quarterback position, but I was hearing that it was probably going to be Newton in line to start on Sunday, make his first official start. Now, he did play on last week against the Arizona Cardinals. And of course, he scores a touchdown. He runs for a touchdown, and he threw for a touchdown in that game as well. He looks like he's going to start, but Matt Rule's already said that they're going to use PJ Walker as well, the quarterback that started last week. So they're going to have a couple of different packages to keep both guys involved. And a lot of teams, I don't like the idea of using 2 quarterbacks throughout the game. I think for Carolina, it makes sense because, look, they've had offensive issues all the time. Whatever you can do to keep the opposing defense off balance, keep them guessing. I think you do that if you're Carolina. So to be honest with you, I really like this decision to actually play both quarterbacks here in this game. I like Carolina, and I like over the total. I think there's now some value for Carolina games to go over the total starting right now because of the fact that, look, their offense has been pretty putrid most of the season. And their defense has been solid. And as a result, Carolina has spent most of this season being a pretty strong under team overall. I think that's got the potential to change now. I think with the little bit of the diversity you see now with using the 2 quarterback system, and sure enough, the game goes over the total last week, Carolina and Arizona. Washington's defense still isn't very good. Now, they did play better against the Bucs last week in a 29-19 win, but still, it was just one of those days where Tom Brady wasn't sharp. Just missing throws that he normally does. You give Washington's defense some credit, but still overall for the season, they've struggled. And now they're not going to have Chase Young either, which, significantly hinders their pass rush without a doubt going into this game. So I think this game goes over. I mean, it's 43. It's a modest total. We're not asking for a big shootout. I think Carolina offensively is going to perk up now with the Walker Newton quarterback situation moving forward. And I think they'll win this game as well. So Carolina and the over for me in this one. Baltimore, Chicago. Baltimore 5-point road favorites, 45 the total. Baltimore with a little bit extra time after playing Thursday night in that loss to Miami last week. I wouldn't feel comfortable going against Baltimore. This was a very, very, very angry team after the way they played last week. You read everything basically coming from the locker room of the Baltimore Ravens after that loss to Miami. They're not happy. They're not happy with that performance one bit. I'd expect a lot better out of them here in this game against Chicago. And I just flat out really don't trust the Bears a whole lot either. They've lost 4 in a row. Many of those have been double-digit losses. Baltimore, you think's got a great chance to bounce back here in this game. You look at the Bears, their run defense has been disappointing. They're giving up 5 yards per carry, 144 yards per rush allowed on the ground. That doesn't match up very well at all with this Baltimore offense. So that could be some trouble here for the Bears on defense. It's still up and down for Justin Fields. He is starting to get better a little bit here, moving the football. We'll see if that continues in this one. But Baltimore, I think, is out for blood now coming into this game. And I don't know if Chicago is good enough on either side of the football to hang in there for 4 quarters against the Ravens. Now, the Ravens have not been great laying points on the road. That's the one thing you do get concerned about. You look at them 0-3 against the spread their last 3 games, and so they've definitely fallen back a little bit, Baltimore, but they're talking the talk that this is a team that definitely wants to make amends for last week. I don't know if I'll be betting the game, but we'll lean Baltimore just a little bit in this one. New Orleans and Philadelphia. Philadelphia 1.5, 2-point home favorites, 43 the total. I don't trust the Eagles off a good game. We've seen more than enough evidence now from this group that you just don't really trust them off a big game and a big win like they had last week. The Philadelphia Eagles against, it was last week against Denver is who they played, and they ended up winning that game. And it was a really dominant game on both sides of the ball for Philly. But we've seen this from Philly this year, where a lot of times they're not able to keep up and have a good game the next week after a good performance. They go right back with a poor performance. That's been the way it's kind of been for the Eagles this year. They beat Carolina, or they beat Atlanta. They lose to San Fran. They beat Carolina. They lose to Tampa. They lose to Vegas. They beat Detroit big time, and then they lose to the Chargers. They beat Denver last week. This, if you follow the pattern, it's supposed to be their spot to lose here. And New Orleans now back-to-back losses by 2 points against Atlanta and Tennessee. Winnable games that just fell through the cracks for New Orleans. And now this is a big game for them at 5-4. They're falling back closer to that pack of fringe wildcard teams, and they don't want to back up much further. And I still think in terms of defense, the Saints probably a little bit better defensively than the Eagles coming into this game. That could end up being the difference. Now, still, you're talking about a quarterback combination of Taysom Hill, who's questionable, by the way, for this game with a foot injury, and, of course, Trevor Siemian. And they're not going to light the world on fire, that's for sure. But the good news is Alvin Kamara's back after missing last week with a knee injury. We know what a vital part he is to the Saints offense. That could end up making the difference. I'm not laying any points with Philly in this game. I would only look at the Saints. Houston, Tennessee, 10-point home favorites, 44.5 the total. I'm on the Texans here. For as ugly as it is, this could be the game where Tennessee is just completely lethargic, sleepwalking, going through the motions. You look at this schedule, they've played 5 straight games against good teams, winning teams: Buffalo, Kansas City, Indianapolis, the LA Rams, New Orleans. They won all 5, but now they face lowly Houston coming in here, and then Tennessee's got New England facing the Patriots next week. So This has that it's just got that, when you've been watching NFL and betting it for as long as I have, you just have that sixth sense of when a team is just going to be lethargic and maybe go through the motions. And man, am I worried about that for Tennessee here in this game. Now, I give Ryan Tannehill credit. No Derrick Henry, no issues because he's shown he can step up throwing the ball and make plays when they need him to. But this just looks like one of those spots where after facing just this amazing gauntlet of games, 5 terrific opponents in a row, that this is just one of those games where Houston or Tennessee is just a little bit lethargic here. And look, Houston is coming into this game off a bye week, so a little extra time to prepare, a chance for Houston to really try to give a step-up effort, kind of like we saw from Detroit. Bad teams off a bye week can step up with a better game. We saw Detroit do that against Pittsburgh last week. And I think Houston could do that here. This is not the spot I'm laying 10 with Tennessee. No way, no how. For as impressive as they are the number one team in the AFC right now. But this is not the right spot nor opponent to be laying double digits in my mind. You got to hold your nose a bit. It's a bad Houston team, but hey, they at least have Tyrod Taylor back at quarterback. And unlike Davis Mills, this guy can at least complete a forward pass every now and then. And I think that's significant for this Texans team going into this game. So for me, it's Houston plus the 10.5. Green Bay, Minnesota. Green Bay, 1.5-point road favorites, 47.5 the total. Do you want to go against this Packers streak? Knock yourself out. I'm not going to do it. And I was silly enough to do it last week with Green Bay laying barely a field goal at home. And I shouldn't have done it. I mean, I knew Green Bay was on a roll from a point spread standpoint. 9-0 ATS since that season opening loss against New Orleans. And now they're in the same price range where they just have to win the game to cover against an inconsistent, mediocre Minnesota team. Yeah, it would be Green Bay or nothing here in this game. Even on the road, Rodgers is going to play. It looks like Adams and Lazard are questionable. And so we'll have to keep an eye on that. That's definitely significant. David Bakhtiari, though, there's good news is he might finally suit up. And, of course, he's a great left tackle. It would be significant if he can suit up here for the Packers in this game. There are some injuries for sure for Green Bay, and that's also keeping this line somewhat in check going into this game. But how many times have we seen Green Bay, injuries, every reason to make excuses, and still find a way, to win football games? You get that sense they've got it in them here. And again, the team's covered 9 in a row, 8-1 straight up during that span. Minnesota, a good win for them against the Chargers last week, but they had lost 2 in a row before that. And to be honest, Chargers did everything to give that game away as much as Minnesota won it last week. So don't want to give them too much credit for that. They've oddly played poor football at home this year. And in fact, the Minnesota Vikings, since a win against Seattle at home, they've gone 0-3 against the spread in their last 3 home games. So right now, I would only look at the Packers here at this current number. Cincinnati, Las Vegas. We've got near a pick 'em here in this game. Cincinnati, 1-point road favorites, 49.5, 50 the total. I think this is a great spot for Cincy. Off a bye week, they had 2 dreadful games against the Jets and the Browns. Right before the bye week, they got dominated. I think this is their chance to step up, play a lot better, off a bye, recharge the batteries, hit the reset button, and I think they can win this football game. I'm worried about Las Vegas. That was supposed to be after losing to the Giants, where it was just after the Henry Ruggs incident. Everybody was just shook by that. You were supposed to respond. You're playing Sunday Night Football at home, divisional game against a team you're battling with to win the division, Kansas City, and you couldn't have played worse, especially on defense. It would look like the Raiders' defense of last year again. Couldn't get stops, couldn't get off the field on third down. It was the whole gamut of problems for the Raiders defense last week. Couldn't stop the run, shredded through the air. I think the Cincinnati offense, look, they're good enough to take advantage of a defense that's struggling with confidence right now. And let's not forget the Giants had one of their better offensive games 2 weeks ago against this Las Vegas defense. So I'm worried about them a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. You could say the same thing about Cincinnati's defense. I mean, we saw Mike White have the best game of his life against them. Cleveland went up and down the field against them. And I do think Derek Carr and the offense, look, losing Ruggs is huge. It's not just the personal human element of it. It's what he does on the field. He's one of their fastest receivers. And now all of a sudden, nobody else is getting open. There's more tight coverage on the other receivers like Renfro, like Darren Waller, the tight end. So it's been difficult to operate for Las Vegas on offense without Ruggs. But I still think they can move the ball a little bit here against Cincy. So I like the Bengals to win. I'll take them at a near pick 'em here. But I also like the over, 49.5, 50. I think we're going to see points, and obviously no worry about weather indoors here in Las Vegas. Arizona, Seattle. Seattle, 2.5-point road favorites, 48.5 the total. Money coming in on Arizona. I agree. I mean, as long as it stays below a field goal with Arizona as road favorites, I'd go in that direction. Arizona's been the ultimate bounce back team this year. I mean, they've only lost, the one loss was against Green Bay, and they bounced back and they beat San Francisco with Colt McCoy at quarterback. So this is a team you trust off a bad game. And look, that was a no-show for Arizona last week. 34-10 loss to Carolina, again without Kyler Murray, but they're expected to have him back here for this game on Sunday. Seattle, I just cannot trust Seattle because last week at Green Bay, they're off a bye. That's supposed to be the spot where you stand up, you save your season, you keep your playoff hopes alive, and the offense was just anemic, completely shut down by the Packers in that 17-0 shutout loss. You know, you got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett dropping passes. You got the O-line not holding up for Russell Wilson to throw the ball down the field. The running game's been a mess with Carson banged up. The defense has actually played not bad, but not good enough to overcome what's happened with the offense in 2 of the last 3 games. So there's concerns here for Seattle and Arizona on the road this year. How about 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread? Arizona's been road warriors this year. In fact, most of their big wins this year have been on the road, at Cleveland, at LA against the Rams, at Tennessee in the first week of the year. They've played their best football on the road, believe it or not. It's at home where they've lost their 2 games this year. On the road, they've been lights out. Arizona. Yeah, less than a field goal, it would be the Cardinals for me in this game. Dallas, Kansas City. We've got Kansas City 2.5-point home favorites, 56 the total in this game. The total's been bet up already. I got the total at 53 on Monday, and I said I got to get on this quickly and early because I know it's only going to go up, and that's exactly what's happened. It's up to 56 in this one. There should be a lot of points. I'd be surprised if there isn't a 31-28 or 34-28, 34-31 type of football game. I think that's what you're going to see here. Look, Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, they got their offense in gear again last week. That's the first time in a long time where that Chiefs offense Sunday night against Las Vegas looked a lot like the Chiefs offense we've become accustomed to in the last couple of years. Big play offense, controlling the line of scrimmage. It was a pretty impressive effort from Kansas City offensively. And look, Dallas defense has improved this year. Look, they have a great game for them last week. They totally shut down Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons. But here's the problem. You're not playing Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons now. That's the problem. You're playing a much better and more explosive, dynamic offense. I think Kansas City can score, and I certainly think Dallas will score on Kansas City's defense. Better the last couple weeks against the Giants and the Raiders for sure from the Chiefs defense, but are they ready to really deal with let's be honest, one of the better offenses in the NFL? That is what Dallas is, and that's what they've been all year with Dak Prescott. This is a legit offense. They can run it, they can throw it, they're balanced, they can create big plays either on the ground or through the air. It's been impressive, and I don't know if this Kansas City defense is going to be able to step up and stop one of the best offenses they've played this year. I totally agree with the total going up. Should see some points. I'd actually lean Dallas a little bit here, 2.5. I don't know if I'll bet it, but lean a little bit to the dog. But definitely bet the over. I definitely bet the over and recommend that for sure. I think we'll see points with the Cowboys and the Chiefs Sunday afternoon. All right, Sunday night football, Pittsburgh Steelers, LA Chargers. Chargers, 6-point home favorites, 47 the total in this game. I really don't want much to do with this game. There's tons of injuries on both sides of the football for both of these teams. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, all kinds of issues. They're dealing with injuries on defense. TJ Watt, Joe Hayden, likely going to sit out for this game. On the Chargers side, Joey Bosa is on the COVID-19 list for them. So you've got key injuries defensively here for both of these teams. Ben Roethlisberger, right now, questionable. Of course, didn't play last week due to being on the COVID list, so we have to wait for an update there about whether he's going to play. If not, they'll have to go with Mason Rudolph one more time. And it was kind of rough for Mason Rudolph last week. Like, who's getting who? The offense really didn't function. There really wasn't much of a passing game with the Steelers with Mason Rudolph at quarterback last week. Most of it was obviously running the football with Najee Harris. So this is a tough one. I'm definitely not in a rush to lay 6 now with the Chargers. I mean, all this team does is either lose or when they win a nail biter. This is not we're going to win by a touchdown or more type of Chargers team. They're just not. You look at the recent results. They lost to Minnie. They beat Philly by 3, lost to the Patriots, the Ravens, beat Cleveland by 5, beat Kansas City by 6, beat Washington by 4. The only win by margin was against Las Vegas, 28-14, and they nearly blew a lead in that game too. So this is not a Chargers team I trust in this price range. I guess by default, I got to lean Steelers here in this one, but I don't know if I'm going to bet it with all the uncertainty on both sides for this matchup on Sunday Night Football. All right, Monday Night Football, final game for this NFL Week 11 slate. New York Giants, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay 11-point home favorites, 50.5 the total. Money coming in on the Giants. And look, road underdogs, they've been amazing. They have been absolutely terrific, the New York Giants, when they've been road dogs. We've seen it time and time again. This is their best point spread roll. They were road dogs at Kansas City. They lost by 3. Road dogs at New Orleans, won outright. Road dogs at Washington. They covered in that game. The only game they didn't was Dallas, and that was the game Daniel Jones got hurt during it, and Glennon had to come in at quarterback for the Giants in that game, Mike Glennon. So just be aware, this Giants team's been amazing as in the road underdog role. What is it now? I've got them at 20-6 ATS, their last 26 games as a road underdog. And do you want to lay doubles with Tampa right now? I mean, they've lost 2 in a row to New Orleans, to Washington. Last week, 29-19. Brady looked out of sync. And there are a ton of injuries on this Bucs defense right now. And that's another thing that concerns you. You're going to be laying doubles with a defense that's Vita Vea may not play. Carlton Davis in the secondary is out. Rashard Robinson, it looks like he's going to be out for this game. Of course, Sean Murphy-Bunting. And most of their injuries are in the secondary. And you worry about that for the Bucs going into this game against the Giants. So my lean is the Giants here. The one concern is, that O-line for the Giants is still very sketchy. And the Tampa Bay defensive front is the strength of the defense. You worry about whether in the battle along the line of scrimmage, whether the Giants are just going to be outmanned, because the matchup of their O-line against the Tampa D-line does scare me a little bit. But they've been money in the bank in this role as road underdogs. They're off a bye week as well, the New York Giants, going into this game, so they're rested and ready. Extra time to prepare for Brady and the Buccaneers. Joe Judge, going back to his Patriots days, has at least some familiarity with Tom Brady as well, being on Belichick's staff in New England. So I'd still lean Giants here at anything above 10, and you can still get plus 11 with them in this game. All right, there you go. That's the CFL and the NFL card for this week. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that if you haven't already. We'll get to a CFL and NFL best bet to wrap up the show in just a second, right after this. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, and karaoke. Southtown 101. Manscaped promo code Pub Sports. 20% off your purchase of the Lawnmower 4.0 or any Manscaped product. 20% off using promo code Pub Sports. MyBookie.ag, promo code Pub Sports. All the sports converging at once here in the month of November. No better time than now to sign up for an account. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit as well. MyBookie.ag, promo code PubSports. All right, best bets to wrap up this edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy here on Pub Sports Radio. A CFL best bet. Well, I don't love anything in the CFL this week. The Hamilton line has really moved way too far for my liking. So by default, we're going to go with the BC Lions -4.5 against Edmonton. It is their final home game. I know it's been a rough go for the Lions, but for the Elks, this is pretty brutal in terms of scheduling. Their third football game in less than a week. How much gas is truly going to be in the tank? They celebrated like they won the Grey Cup with that win against Toronto on Tuesday night, Edmonton. And I don't know how much gas is in their tank. And I think for BC, they at least want to go out victorious here in their final home game. And I believe in Nathan Rourke, even though he's going to be the quarterback for BC and not Michael Riley. He's a dual threat. He's played good in flashes here for BC at times when he's had the opportunity. We'll go with the BC Lions, -4.5 against the Edmonton Elks. That'll be my CFL best bet. My NFL best bet for this week's edition of the show. Let's see what we'll go with here. Lots of good choices again this week. I'm going to go with let's see here. I'm going to go with Cincinnati, pick them against Las Vegas. I think it's their spot here. Off a bye week, recharge the batteries. Let's not forget, this team has shown the capability to play good football this year, and now that's back-to-back losses for Las Vegas. They haven't looked like the same team on the field emotionally since the Henry Ruggs situation, and I think Cincinnati right now, off a bye week, they get back on track, and they get the win in Las Vegas. We'll go with the Cincinnati Bengals, pick 'em against Las Vegas for my NFL best bet here on Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. That'll wrap up this edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Hit that like button. Make sure you do that. And we'll be back next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, with another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy right here on Pub Sports Radio. I'm Ian Cameron. Enjoy the games and good luck. Have a great weekend and cash some tickets in football. And we will see you again next Thursday right here for another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy on Pub Sports Radio.